wigs are worn, I would say, practically every production that is on Broadway at the moment. There isn't one person who uses their own hair except maybe some of the men. A wig designer is a person, either sex, doesn't matter about age. They create a style, a look. That is a designer. And so when I'm approached to design a production, I have to know what sort of person they are, whether they're poor people who have no way of going to a beauty parlor or having their hair done. So you design for the character. He creates a look with his skill and his comb and his brush. I work very closely with costume designers because they also have a great input, into the look of the show. And that's how I really became as well known as I am now. This is the room where the magic happens. Once it's all finished, you then dress it in the style that you've discussed at the very beginning with the costume designer or the director. And then you fit the actors with it. And then, provided everything has gone well, they're ready to wear that in the production that it's been made for.
How often do you see yourself in
I never get to see myself in this. It's always a quick change.
I feel like there's something else we should do.
But what I want to say about this is, of course, this particular style is using your own hair over the edge of this so that it has a more natural look. That's what we do.
She just got washed last week.
Yeah. Well, what happens is that the wig is put on a block and it's pinned so that it doesn't fall off the block. And then it then gets soaked into water and shampooed. And then that is left to dry slightly, and then it's reset. Just like hair. Well, this is hair anyway, so you would. That's how it's washed. I mean, it's gently brushed through with shampoo. And she has this on all of how many seconds?
Probably 3 minutes in total.
3 minutes. That's all.
You also have
If an actor came in with a costume designer and they started to talk about various aspects of the play and what character this actor was going to be, it helped me a lot because I'd been an actor myself and was able to speak and have an opinion, of course, about what would be the right thing to do in respect of a wig or a hairpiece or a beard or a moustache to transform them into what the script of the play was. Perfect.
Yes. Yes.
You see? I could sell you the Noah's Ark. And then, of course, the director comes in after that and says, oh, I want this, I want that. And I don't like this and I don't like that. And so it's a team, a whole team goes on.
Thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you. And we'll talk about, I'll see you on Saturday. Yes. I get hired on the first day of the rehearsal. And that's when all the actors are at one place at one time, the rehearsal studios. So that's when the work begins, like taking those cap shapes, that's plastic cap shapes, measurements, color, and talking about the look and style. A costume designer can hire me, a director can hire me, and a producer certainly can hire me because he is the one who's going to be paying the pennies. I have certain demands that I always say, well, I'm too old and too famous, so I can ask this, which I do. I get a design fee on a production I do, and if they're generous, I get a royalty per week. That's the business side of it. I personally brought a different type of wig to this country. The delicacy of the temples and the sides of the wig made an enormous difference. And so the wig makers that were making wigs here put far too much hair in a wig, which is always a giveaway. And so I started to create a much finer type of wig to be worn in movies and theatre. One of the things that I specialize in is that when the hair is threaded into the foundation, I shade the color with a different color, and we call that a root color. It's where the base of the wig is slightly darker than the tips of the hair. And that has influenced a lot of wig makers here in this country. They've started to do that. Took a cap shape of the actress, and then that is transposed onto a wooden head block, and then you start to make the foundation, which is made of a netting, to the contour of that shape on that block. Then the hair is threaded through it.
We're making a new wig for Lucia, so we're building Lucia a second wig for her character Rosita in A Bronx Tale. We've made the foundation, which is made out of, this is a lace fabric. And so what I'm going to do is just pin it down because I'm going to get it ready for ventilating. So we're going to put hair in all these little tiny holes that you see. We usually put in a thread, and that tells us where to start the front from. It's really a lost art. There's not a lot of people that really do the proper, English way of making wigs. Usually the English wig makers will lay it across so that you've got them going both, either way. So it's a bit more natural, but a lot of other people will lay it the other way around, so it's just straight up and up and down. And I don't feel like that is quite as natural because it's just lines of, of hair.
Do you want to just place that so that they see what it is?
That's what our finished hairline, that's what you want it to look like because it's nice and natural. This is what we call a drawing mat. So I've already put hair in here, and then this holds it down. so that you can just, take out a few hairs at a time. And then this area here is the root. That's where you would do, we call it a turnaround. So you would turn it around, and you've got it like this. And this is going to be your little loop. So this is a knotting hook. There's a teeny tiny little hook in here that we're going to pull the hair through the lace and make like a little knot. So it's kind of like rug hooking, but on a really small scale. And then what you do is you just go through. When you're on the front here, you grab one hair, pull it through, and just do a little knot. And you're following these lines that are here. So we'll do. And you really only want one hair in the front.
What you must realize now is those mic packs are now worn in the heads. And that's changed the whole purpose. It has to be a wig because it has to cover up that mic pack. You can't use that mic pack with their own hair. There's no way. Also, they have to dance.
Oh yeah, little three-legged.
Turn upside down with this on their heads.
Around, and the other one is a faucet.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But most dancers, especially Broadway dancers, prefer it in their head because they don't have to have cords running down their bodies, for quick changes. The actress doesn't really see it generally until it's totally like this. Then it's put on, and if you wanted some slight adjustment, you would do that, you see. Or either I would do it or the hairdresser would do it. It's fine. This is the 60s, where the hair was very bouffant and big. And so, of course, it doesn't matter it being poking out or being large. But if it's a much smaller styled head of hair, it has to be placed in a different place, not here. It gets placed at the bottom of the nape. The mic cord comes down and there's a little head on sound. And also you have them now like this, don't you? She wears a mic like this.
But aesthetically, you prefer it here because people don't see the arm of it. Well, where Paul put it and how it fits under the wig, it's very comfortable. It's when you pin the mic pack into the head, my scalp gets very sensitive. So what we do at the theater is we've had put Velcro on the cloth, and I Velcro it to my wig cap, and I just put one pin in, because having an uncomfortable pin during the show can really bother you, because it literally feels like someone's digging into your brain.
Scalp. Yes,
it's distracting and painful, and you don't want to have to go to the wig department and have them take everything off to adjust a pin.
No.
So you try to be very careful when you're pinning. When I first had the wig design, Paul and I discussed, who Rosina was, who I was, what my hair coloring is, which thankfully is very similar to hers. And together we talked about, what kind of woman she was. She's very strong, playful, intelligent, and well-kept. So when I put on the wig, it really brings Rosina to life. Her hair and her costume, it just lets them know who she is a little bit. Well, I have friends that don't wear wigs in shows, and I think it's very difficult on the actress because then she's responsible for trying to create that look every night. I'm very grateful that I get wigs, and I'm very grateful that 2 of my wigs have come from Paul. I think you hit it.
Yes,
I think you did a great job.
Yes. Ancient people, wig making was exactly the same, but today, of course, in a much more refined way, because they used to tie their hair in their wigs with great, huge hooks, which had, probably 26 hairs to one knot. And as you saw with Giovanna Calabretta, you saw the single hairs going into those holes.
When I went to Egypt, they actually had wigs from, they were probably 2,000 years old. But, the ones that you see on all the in the tombs, and they're basically hard fronts, and they would put a little, it's like a beeswax perfume on top of them, so a little, little piece up here. And as the night went on, it would melt and sort of go down into the wig. So it would be very perfumey.
The nuns used to convert when they took their vows, and their hair was shorn and cut off and then sold to wig makers. But then Italy decided which was the country where most people took their vows, and it was a huge industry. And then the war came, so all that changed. And also nuns did no longer cut their hair, so the source dried up. We went to Russia, which was a huge black market for hair. And hair merchants, especially in that country, would go into the villages, and people would line up once a month, and young girls would have their hair cut off, and they were paid a minimum sum of money. And then it went on to the black market to be sold to the various wig companies throughout Europe. But now, of course, it's a very different story. It's not a black market anymore, but a lot of Russian hair is sold from Russia. Yak hair is very difficult to get now because, of course, it all came from Afghanistan. And it was the best. This is the kind of hair. As a small child, my mother was a remarkable woman in the fact that she liked to wear very heavy makeup. And I was fascinated at the age of 6 watching her makeup. And she was a avid movie fan, and she had many film books. I did my military service for 2 years at the age of 16. And when I came out of that, I decided I wanted to be an actor. So I went to a drama school and trained, and then after a few months, I decided that acting wasn't really what I wanted to do at all. I wanted to do something more creative. And then I trained in a very, very wonderful company called Wig Creations, which was a great learning experience. They asked me about the fact that I trained as an actor, and that what the position required someone who had knowledge of wigs, which of course I did not really know much about wigs, but I said I knew everything about wigs just to get the job. And then I trained as a theatrical wig maker, and also I had to go to hairdressing school at the same time. In those heady days, as a very young apprentice, I was allowed to put curlers in Vivian Lee's hair and various luminaries of that time in the theatre and movies. I even made a wig for an actress called Mae West, who was quite a character, I can tell you. I became the number one person in that company for many, many years. I loved portraiture and people's faces, and I sketched. And then I realized, of course, when wigs were then put on people, they were totally transformed to what they were, and I found that really fascinating. I really did. I was asked to do wigs for a film called Carnal Knowledge by the director, Mike Nichols. And of course I was in England at Wig Creations, but he asked for me in particular. And I came to do that film. It had Jack Nicholson and Margaret and Candice Bergen and Art Garfunkel. And so I realized that I perhaps could start my own company And I would like to have started it here in New York, which I did. It was an enormous change to me because I found America very loud and very noisy, very hot and very cold. American actors really are rather wonderful, in many ways more considerate than the English actors, who take it for granted so often that things that are made, like wigs and beards and what have you, it's their God-given right. American actors are so fascinated by the whole thing, you know, and think, oh my God, yes, look at that, look at this. I came in 1972, and I was all of 42, I think I was then. And now I'm in my 80s, you know, and I'm still doing it, and I still get great satisfaction out of it.